Digital Soil and Stories engages Two Spirit and Indigenous LGBTQ+ responses on connection to land as safe space. Artists share reflections and spoken word practice while visiting cultural and heritage sites throughout treaty lands now known as Saskatchewan. In collaboration with Two Spirit and LGBTQ+ artists and knowledge keepers, Digital Soil and Stories was envisioned and produced by nehîyaw spoken word artist Janelle, ecoaborijanelle Pewapsconias, and unboundedly supported by the Saskatoon Pride Festival Board. A sharing of perspectives and truths of this land as safe space. Here are our Digital Soil and Stories.
Tanse, Jennifer Lenny, Omania, Prince Albert, Ochinia. Hello, I'm really humbled and grateful to be here as part of the Digital Soil land sharings and storytelling. I'd like to acknowledge that I come from Treaty 6 territory and homelands the Métis, in also the traditional and territories of Lakota, Dakota, Nakota, the Cree, and the Dene and the Métis peoples. I'm here today to share a little bit about why the land is important to me and a bit about my journey, and to share a song with you. And it's this amazing to be out here right now listening to the birds and hearing the wind and seeing all these beautiful trees and leaves, and there's the life that is happening all around us. And that's what, for me, the connection to the land does, is it really helps to revitalize my spirit. And so if I'm struggling with something, I'll go to the land. And whether that's just to sit there for a while, or walk, or pray, or offer my tobacco and ask for guidance, the land always takes care of me. My late elder said, to listen to what is happening around you. Listen to those birds, listen to the wind, listen to the leaves rustling, listening to the water, and that answers will come for whatever it is that you're asking guidance for. That it'll come from being on the land. I think that's become even more important over these past months, as people were isolating with some ceremonies coming to be postponed. Being when we're able to get on the land has helped to, or has helped me anyways, to feel regrounded and to feel connected. And that's where this song that I want to share comes from, was from a walk that I was doing with my daughter. And I was just thinking about, just the support people have done for each other over these past while, and just how grateful I was to be able to have the opportunity to get out, and be on the land. And you can do that anywhere. It could be a park in the city, it could be outside in a drive, wherever that feels like a connection for you. And so that's where the song comes from. And it's, the Cree words in it are about the act of supporting each other and about loving all our relations. Because all of our kinship here on the land, we're connected to them, we're related to them, and they look after us and they take care of us. And so that's what this song is that act of supporting each other and loving all your relations. Well, thank you so much. I'm grateful to share a song with you and a little bit of my story. So, can I ask him what to thank you?
Welcome to Prince Albert National Park in Treaty 6 territory. This is my happy space. This is where I come to recharge. This is where I come to reconnect. This is where I come to reflect and to get inspired. While this park was created in 1926, the history of this park goes back a lot longer than that. This was ancestral trapping territory for many Northern Cree and Northern Métis. And every time I come into the park, I acknowledge that many families lost access to their ancestral hunting territory, their ancestral burial grounds when this park was created. For me, it's a relatively new part of my life. I grew up 45 minutes away from here, growing up in the city of Prince Albert in the West Flat of PA, which is the hardest part of town. It was the roughest part of town. And we really didn't have access to a world outside of that. So when I became an adult and discovered this place, it opened up a lot in me. It gave me a connection to a place that I was so close, but yet a million miles away. I was lucky enough that in 2020, a collection of my work was published. Inside this book are several poems that were inspired by this place, by Prince Albert National Park. The first poem I'm going to read actually is one of the first poems in the book, and it talks about a lot of the trails, a lot of my experience here, and what I want to capture, what I want to share with people about this place. Waskasoo. Through the park gate and into the trees, 100,000 or more, much more. This ribbon of asphalt flows through like a river, channeling through to the edge of cold waters, just like the overland freighters and fur trappers once did through this land. Through Treebeard and Boundary Bog, how many school field trips have ventured here, listening to the clicking of spruce beetles, triggering that primal fear, God forbid one lands upon you. A stern wheeler once plied these waters, the mosquitoes thick as snow. Jazz-age cabins covered thick with moss. This place, this park, Wawasquisuak, a warship once bore its name. Tom Thompson had Algonquin Park. I have here. I mentioned two things in there. The warship part, there was an actual Royal Canadian Navy warship that fought in the Second World War that was named after this place. The bell from that ship is currently in the museum at Prince Albert. The connection to Tom Thompson, for me, it goes back to being an artist. If you know the history of who Tom Thompson was, he was a landscape artist who drew most of his inspiration from Canoe Lake and Algonquin Park in Ontario. And actually, he died within Algonquin Park. As an artist, I take some of the same inspiration that he must have taken when he walked those trails through Algonquin Park. I take that inspiration from here. I can walk a trail twice, once with my head up, once with my head down. I walk up to see the way the wind moves the trees, the black spruce, the birch, the tamarack, the balsams. I look down and I'll watch the way the roots of those same trees will cascade and move and turn and go across the trails. The inspiration I take from this place in the summertime, in the wintertime, all year round, I try to take that same inspiration and convey it through words, through painting, through performance art, trying to bring this little bit of this world that we have here and bring it to an audience, bring it to people in a gallery. We've had so many forest fires in northern BC, and a lot of times that smoke will come here. Same thing with the fires in Fort McMurray in Alberta. That smoke came here. So I wrote this. I know we're surrounded by, the park in winter right now, but this is a poem that I wrote for a time when the summer was coming to an end. South Bay, end of summer. Sitting beside freshly split firewood, strong wind off Waskesiu Lake, hard to see King Island through orange BC smoke. Campfire ash floats in tea made over fire. Forest fire ash floats in lake water. Forest fire ash floats in sky over boreal forest. Dying dog days of summer. Every year watching end of June goals dissipate like daylight hours. Autumn smells on wind. Approaching yellow leaves encroaching. Soon bare limbs will claw at cold winter skies. Cold thoughts on lake wind drive me to throw more wood into lakeside campfire, sending more ash into my tea. I was fortunate enough to come here in 2018 to watch the Perseid meteor shower. And if you translate the word comet or meteor into Cree, it translates into star with a tail. Achakoska Osistak, Perseid 2018. Little fire, cup of tea, hoping clouds will clear so I can see Achakoska Osistak, stars with a tail. I see darkness. What did our ancestors think when they watched stars fall from the sky? I see one fall. Tail is a flash of green streaking at a 90-degree angle. Bright moment, then gone. Those that survive crashing to the ground somewhere far away. Each one an abrupt stop. Each one making the world a little heavier. When I come here, I always come with a sense of an open mind and a clean slate, an empty book, a pen in hand to take whatever the land is going to give me as inspiration. The next piece I'm going to read is a poem I wrote about getting that inspiration from this place. Getting inspiration, taking that gift, leaving Tobacco Band and getting that gift of creativity from the land. Chicago still by the fire. Pen is back in my hand. Inspiration has returned. I have stood by the fire, green limbs of a fallen tree, sending gray smoke into the air. Smoke smell turning on memories like a bank of lights in a dark room. I feel it. Energy of storyteller, energy of writer, flowing back into tired gray brain cells. Turning key in ignition, inspiration for new work. Not merely kicking at half-finished stories, not waking, napping words asleep in software. Now and again, I stop and make my way. Throw more green boughs onto the sacred fire. Made sacred by virtue, made sacred by inspiration, my hands, sticky, covered with sap of still living tree branches, consumed by flames turned into columns of thick smudge smoke. My hands fly across paper, handwriting becoming sloppy. My hands struggle to keep up with words. My spirit cries for me to write down right now. When I come to this place, when I cross that park boundary, things do slow down, and not just because you have to slow your vehicle down. It does feel like time stands still. It does feel like me, like, for when I come into the park, I'm given a little bit more time in my day. There is not a time of year where this place is ugly. There is not a time of the year where this place is taking of spirit. When you come up here in the autumn and you take the scenic trail, the scenic route, and you see walls of orange leaves of the poplar and birch on both sides. When you are walking through a freshly melted trail and you come upon a pocket where the snow hasn't quite melted and you actually feel the temperature change, you feel the air get cold, it reminds you how beautiful this place is. There are times when it's crowded with tourists. There are times when it does feel somewhat claustrophobic when you're in the main town site, when you're on the beach, and it does feel kind of, you feel surrounded by humanity, but at the same time, all you gotta do is just look out over the heads and across the water, and you see that great expanse of water. It has created such a feeling in me that when I go to the south, when I go south of Prince Albert, when I head into Treaty 4 territory, make my way down to Regina, when I make my way down to Saskatoon and you leave the tree line, I almost feel a sense of claustrophobia then, because I need the trees. I need these ancestors surrounding me, these ancestors that have stood for hundreds of years. I need their arms around me. And I can't think of another place in the world I'd want to live. I don't think I'd ever want to live anywhere else but here in the Northern Boreal Forest of Saskatchewan. The last poem I'm going to read is going to speak a little bit about that. It talks about a walk along the sand. Forthrighting. I found a feather on the beach. I figure it belonged to a seagull. This place echoes. Boats across the lake. Noisy people having fun. They make a loud splashing. Very different from the big waves. I want to thank you for listening to my words. I want to thank you for sharing this experience with me. And I hope that you get an opportunity to enjoy this place, connect with this place, connect with the beauty. When you come to Prince Albert National Park, when you come to Waskesiu, I always recommend bring an empty notebook and a good pen. We all have a good pen. That kind of pen where we look and say, that's a nice pen. Bring that pen. Because you're going to need it.
So welcome. My name is Floyd Favel. I'm from the Pawmaker First Nation. It's in a Cree Assiniboine Reserve. And I'm the curator of the Chief Pawmaker Museum as well. My main job in life is I'm a theater director, writer. I studied in Europe and across Canada here. I'm also a theoretician. I create cultural theory. But I'm also the curator of the Chief Pawmaker Museum where we're at right now. What happened here was in 1885, there was a battle. The soldiers, they came and they attacked our people. And so our people, they defended themselves. They were fighting, I guess, for the health and safety of everybody, anybody vulnerable, women, children, old people. So they fought there. And they drove the soldiers back, even though they were outnumbered 6-1, and they had just old weapons like bow and arrows and all that. This is a place of protection and safety, primarily. And I always say this place, it represents how it was long ago, and how our places, our reserves, our communities, they can also be like that, as a safe place, as a people to come back to, as a people, as a place for our people to run home to. When things get difficult for them in their lives, for whatever reasons, they can always come home back to their community and to their land, where they can be safe, because the land, that's Kikawe Noaski. In our creation story, Kikawe Noaski, she shed tears as she said what she was going to give to the human beings which were to come. They would feed off her. She would provide them all their sustenance. So the Mother Earth, that's what she would be, our mother, and she would take care of everybody. She would, from her, we would get our milk and our sustenance, and she would provide us with shelter and comfort. In Cree, when we say, our Mother Earth kisses us when we walk upon her, when we live upon her. That's another way to say gravity. That's our Indigenous way to say the gravitational pull. And in our Indigenous beliefs, our Cree beliefs, that's a sign of love and affection, caring for the human beings, for the animals, is from Mother Earth, is through what scientists call gravity. And so that's evidenced around us in all aspects of our life. That's the love and the comfort of Mother Earth as a safe place. And it's in our communities, it's important that everybody feels safe. And that's what it used to be a long time ago, was there was that mentality where no one was excluded, where there was a place for everybody. Because we always say in our traditional beliefs, we're all children of the Great Spirit and also Mother Earth. So we're all equal. We are their children. No matter who we are or how we are, we're still their children. And so the Great Spirit and Mother Earth, they don't throw away any of their children. So everybody has to be provided for according to how they want to express themselves, how they want to be in life. So there must be a space for them. And Tawao kamiitik. Tawao means there should be room and space for everybody. And that's how our communities always were. And through this museum, I always try to express that. I always try to say that to visitors, and also by evidence by all the pictures here. Everybody in this community should be represented on the walls here. So I'm trying my utmost to do that. Also, we must keep in mind the LGBTQ community as well. That was lost through the colonization that arrived here. That was looked upon as something like maybe improper, and so generations they were taught this. And I think it's now that us who are willing to think about it, willing to express it, willing to talk about it, willing to advocate, and not to have shame or fear. It's a traditional belief. And then we must go back to our traditional beliefs when we talk about that. And where I came to those traditional conclusions is not only am I an artist, writer, I spent a lot of years, a lot of months and times sitting on Mother Earth, meditating, praying, because one of my roles here on this reserve also is like I help out at traditional ceremonies. And every 2 years I make a sun dance. And so I give away so many things as an expression of gratitude, wanting good things for all of my people. We've got to say all of our people. Not just a certain group of people, but everybody who comes under the protection of the sacred tree. Everybody who comes there, equal in the eyes of the Creator. So those are a few words that I wanted to share at this time. Thank you.
I used to be the daughter of a hunter, the granddaughter of hereditary chiefs, descending from a long line of the oldest daughter of the oldest daughter. My hair always smelled like moose hide, and my hands always warm from the blood of the fresh kill, even days after. I used to smoke meat and tame my wild hare and be ready for the 6:45 a.m. pickup of the school bus. My dad was the community's hunter and builder. He built my house, he built my best friend's house, and the school that I attended. My hair was always soft, my bed was always warm. And in just a few years following his death, rather than watching him drag home giant moose, I was on the streets in the city and a long ways away from home, my res. A long ways away from the moose and the bison and the geese and the wampus. I went from the daughter of a hunter to a prostitute with a taste for cocaine, for crack, a taste for blood, a taste for pills, and a taste for pain. Instead of moose being brought to nourish the people, was firewater to drown out my now sorrowful existence. I lost track of how many took advantage of my teenage body and grew into a resentful woman, from the freedom of the res to the hood and the gutter. Almost claimed by the sweet chill of winter I once loved, almost claimed by stainless steel and gun barrels, things my people never had before. Almost claimed by fists and chokeholds, my life was almost claimed by anger and bloodlust. Left alone more than once in dead winter, blood and tears frozen into my hair. Hair which used to be long and luxurious and shiny. I was claimed by the ravaging of my dignity, just like the ravaging of the lands. I was claimed by a mother who I believed hated me, and maybe I only believe she hated me for being her carbon copy. And back on our reserve, she was held in such high regard, and now her face lovelorn and worn. I became a daughter of the streets in the night, beaten by my own life and only holding on to a shimmer of the glory I once knew, where men protected women, not beat them, where elders told stories, not taking unwanted touches, where women were free, not spiteful and submissive. I remember the days when I felt valued and cherished. And now I felt cheap after being bought over and over. It took many years for me to hear the whispers of the land again, to see the beauty in each snowflake again, to hear the teachings of the water, to want to dip my feet into the rivers again. It took years to hear my grandmother's teachings and her prayers, and each one she sung into me in each braid. It took many years to hear the teachings over all of the violence and the horror. Many moons, many overturned memories of my hair being braided and songs sung into me. It took many years to remember this chief beauty, my hair and my native tongue. Nehîyaw nehîyaw is Pewapsconias nukse and I am a force to be reckoned with today. And my time is coming again, and my rightful place in this world is opening up again. I'm an Indian woman and proud, and your feet rest on the very lands of my ancestors and people. Never forget whose graves you stand on. I am of one tribe, one people, one land. There are many more just like me, and it is to them that I belong. These have been the letters of a contemporary Indian living in a concrete jungle. I had just lost my job, and I was feeling pretty low. And then an old woman on the street who was homeless recognized me for my work. And she said to me in Cree, "Akamemok," which means just keep going. And to hear that from someone who has nothing. That was the only reason I wrote that poem, was because of her. I love people on the streets. I love them so much. I spent 7.5 years without a home. And my favorite people will always be the people who have nothing. They're the most humble, they're the most kind, they're the most fierce, they're the most brave. Every day they live on the underbelly of society. Their brown skin, their brown hair, their brown eyes. And every day they still get up. So everything I write, I try to write for them. Everywhere I speak, I try to speak from my experiences, being on the streets just like them. They're the strongest people I've ever known in my life. To persist and to persist day after day. The inhumane strength that it takes to exist like that. People don't want to touch you, they don't want to come near you, they don't want to smell you, they don't even want to see you. But they get up every single day. Yeah. They'll always be where my inspiration comes from. Everyone has the topic on their lips. Everyone is an ally, or so they say, or so they truly believe, without inflection or reflection to the root sources, the causes and what contributes to this tragedy. Everyone talks about missing and murdered sisters, yet no one talks about the dysfunction in their own families. No one talks about how they've disrespected or rejected, thrown out and lied about their own sisters. No one talks about how they discredit her or turned a blind eye to family pedophiles and racist uncles. No one talks about the Indian women they've bought. No one talks about the Indian women they've degraded, or how they look away from them on the street, how they watch them be followed and targeted and remain silent in shopping malls, being accused of theft for being born brown and female. No one talks about how we fall silent when one of these women is screaming and crying injustice, and no one reaches out to console her. No one talks about the way they teach their children to hide their eyes from the homeless and compliment only Indian beauty queens, or the sisters who become educated, or the disrespect as they hush about drunken Indians. You see it everywhere in the papers, the news, and social media. About the hoes, the sluts, the drunks, the addicts, and the missing and murdered thrown in too. The selfish who never care for their children and receive all of the blame, but who cares about them? Not really anyone until after they've been murdered. And I have been guilty of this too. I've almost been one of the murdered or missing as well, over 6 times, and I tell you this today because no one intervened or even tried, and I'm sick of this apathetic attitude that's been beaten hard into us. We don't want your land acknowledgements, we want action. We used to be beautiful, we used to be of the highest regarded, and now it's sad to see everyone taking selfishly from my sisters, to see allies discard and discredit the Indian women working in their nonprofits for not fitting their colonized vision. In their agencies, their stores, and their minds where an Indian woman doesn't fit their prescribed vision, in their hearts, I don't believe there was malice born. It was placed there, shoved violently into there. Everyone loves the Indian with feathers in her hair, talking of peace in long ago days. No one loves the Indian talking real world issues and uncomfortable truths and solutions. No one enjoys looking real trauma in the eye. And one day, we will be strong again, stronger again. But until then, I wait patiently with my raped and murdered and lost sisters, names resting on my tongue and in my memory, for that's where they live until the day is ours again, and we can return again to our communities and our homes, until we can return again to our children, honored not after our death, but while we still breathe and move. Until then, dismantle the system that kills us. Dismantle your internalized colonization. Disengage from this New Age Holocaust. Until then. Just a bit. It was something that I wrote for a young girl who was really struggling. And I met her at in Montana at the International Two Spirit Gathering in 2019. And I just remember her just being just loud and laughing. And she took care of the kids when nobody was watching. She fed them and she cleaned them. And she got meals for the old people. And she didn't complain when people said mean things to her. You know, she's not only Indigenous, she's not only transgender, she's kind. She has a hard life because of her kindness. Letters for Addie. My little baby living between avenues, trying to figure out what's right and what's wrong, and why did Creator make her this way, if she wasn't meant to be living this way. She's waking up on the cold side of her bed again, sitting on the edge, contemplating life again, asking God why he made her so queer, so trans, so gay, and why is one gender more right than the other when you're born in the wrong body? Why does the world try to convince her to live in it? And that's only one of her struggles. I see you, my baby, my pretty little baby I met down in Montana. When you're off asking creators questions, you miss all of the good things. Like you are loved, and you are cherished, and you are prayed for. You are the backbone of our people. You are their dreams and legacies just by existing. So exist a little louder, a little prouder, a little darker than before, a little browner. I will be cheering you on with a border and a pandemic between us. This wouldn't be the first time that we were separated by borders and sickness. Since Confederacy in 1876, they've been trying to separate us. There is nothing that can come between my love for you. And there should be nothing that comes between your love for yourself and life. After I wrote that and after I sent it to her, she ended up spending the next few days trying to get it together and managed to buy a plane ticket to get herself from one state back to her home community. I don't know if she's still alive, but she's only one of the dozens trans children that I've had to talk to that reached out to me when they were feeling suicidal. There are youth all over the world that still reach out to me that I met at this gathering. It's hard to be brown. It's hard to be Two Spirit. It's hard to be those two things combined.
Hello, everybody. My name is Janelle Pewapsconias. I come from Little Pine First Nation. I am a spoken word poet, nehîyaw. So I speak the Cree language, and I'm here today at the Pamiker Historical Site and Museum. And today I'm reading a couple poems, one about the sundown, and one about trees. We're approaching the theme of land as safe space. And to me, land is safe space because it is very healing. They say, you know, if you need to feel grounded, then literally go to the ground. Sometimes I feel lifted or out there or anxious. Well, if you go to the land, put your feet on the ground when it's not so snowy, you'll feel the life under you. There's equal oppositional forces pushing you down as they are pushing you up. So know that the land upholds you. And so I wanted to share the poem about the tree because my people learned a lot about survival in these harsh territories from understanding how nature survives. And so that's why we've been called and labeled, keepers of the land, because we're just returning the favor and giving back more than we have taken. So when I talk about these things, it's not to romanticize our relationship, but it's to reconnect. And hopefully, through spoken word poetry, we can create a connection between ourselves as human beings, through our stories and through our understandings. So this one is called Waskasoo Tree. I stopped to listen to a tree today. In between the canopy and the boardwalk, I saw the dance of the lichen. Hanging off the high branches, spindles of greens and grays held up to the sky, in brilliance of the northern wonders of the life of a tree. In the creek, in the rhythm of the floating breeze, the sway and air dances its way throughout and in between. I listen and lesson. of live and let be, how the wind and the tree live together. This is the teaching for you and the me. And what I took from just hearing a tree creak and seeing all the trees around me was that we all live in harmony. And we're all different beasts, and we all have different ways we are, but we still need to live together. And that's how we create balance. The next piece that I would like to share is about a sunset. Social media is very much alive, and today I'm more than just a romantic naturalist or conservationist. The skies are alive, and I took a photo, enhanced the color, darkened the contrast, made it brighter, added more color, and it just created this not so vibrant picture as what you would see in real life, but it was very gorgeous. There's nothing like being in the moment. But I thought it was a wonderful opportunity for me to capture something because it literally took my breath away. And so here's that poem. Pride flag skies. One Instagram post. 1 minute before sundown, one moment. One breath, one release. One to thank the sun for a good day, for the blessing that dances for a light refracting and skipping across the prairie hills and the trees' trembling leaf. One to thank the wind cascading between the land and the pillowy cloud and rays chasing the sun. Sing a song only your eyes can see, pastels of pink and orange and the quick transition to the living sky blues, one to hold the moment. The very air in your lungs holding space within you. Land holding you up like you're their balloon, for one for the very sight of a fleeting day is a blessing in the skies. And the water in your eyes feel the connection. And the water in your body understands the tomorrow. And the water on your lands recognize you and not just your body, but your being. One breath, one release, one moment before sundown, one Instagram post of Pride Prairie Skies. I think spoken word has a really interesting way of having us understand things on a different level. It's not just words written on page, it's energy and exchange. And I miss being with people and sharing and exchanging and then listening and then exchanging, because it's a responsibility of our relationship together. And so land as safe space for me isn't just about, having land and feeling like you're one with nature. It's more than that. You are one of nature. You are one beast. You can be as wild or as tame as you wish. And the land as safe space to me is the ability to play. And that's something that I'm working on building my relationship with again. Play, being able to explore, having my voice heard, and the tree, and the sundown, and the water all listen. So if you ever need anyone, if you ever need safe space, just go to the land. You'll find it there. Thank you and have a wonderful day.